Have you ever thought of starting your own business? Making your life your own? Now's the time. To get started. Welcome back to Starting a Business Simplified for higher purpose entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Susie Rains, and we're finishing our series on the personality patterns as an entrepreneur. So this is our last pattern that we're in. And if you listened to last week's episode, we talked about the rigid or achiever pattern, the defense of it, and how it shows up. And then we also talked about how this shows up as an entrepreneur. And I know a lot of people can resonate with the perfectionism of the rigid pattern. So before we dive into the episode, I just want to give you a quick heads up that this is the end of this series. And starting next week, we will be diving into a new series on the podcast, and it's going to be around numbers. So for those of you that have a challenge with numbers or avoid numbers, again, the leaving pattern, we're just not going to look at them. This episode or this particular series that I'm going to be talking about, we're going to go into the most important numbers. What numbers do you need to be looking at? What you can do to grow your business by looking at your numbers. And that's going to be income numbers, sales numbers, forecasting numbers, lead numbers, all the numbers, things that people might be scared of. I'm going to go into how you can look at them in a simplified way, where they make sense, and where it's going to actually help you grow your business. And for those of you just starting out, it's a beautiful habit to get into at the beginning when it's not overwhelming. There's less to look at the beginning. And as you get into the habit and get comfortable looking at your numbers, then as they grow, your business is growing, you're already comfortable looking at them. So that's going to be the next series that comes up starting next week. So for those of you listening or watching on the YouTube channel, I also wanted to invite you to the Higher Purpose Entrepreneur community. This is a community of soul-led business owners. We come together, we have live calls, we have a community where we share. I always post and ask for accountability for people. If there's people that want accountability, every Monday a post goes out asking what you're working on for the week. Friday, we do a recap. What are you celebrating? It's a way that you can stay on track with other entrepreneurs who are like-minded, support with questions. We have the live calls, referring, so you can get referrals, give referrals, collaborate, all the beautiful things as an entrepreneur in a place where you don't feel alone. We would love to have you in there. If you're curious about it, you can click on the link in the show notes and come join us and see what it's all about. All right, final episode for this series, the rigid pattern. And this is now embracing the gifts of this pattern. So we know from last week that the defense part of this pattern is being rigid and wanting to be perfect and not flexible. So we're just going to be pushing hard to have everything perfect. And it can lead to holding back and not taking action. So not doing the project you want to do because it's not perfect, not working with clients because it's not perfect, not wanting to launch your business because it's not perfect, not everything's set up the way you want it. And this can lead to procrastination, holding back, and not stepping into the growth phase that your business really has the potential for. Now let's flip that around and say, okay, so what are the gifts of this pattern? Entrepreneurs with this pattern and that step into this gift, and I'm going to recap for a minute. When you use the defense of this pattern, usually it's easier for you to adopt the gifts as well. So if you are subconsciously doing the defense part of the pattern, not moving forward because of perfectionism, it's easy for you to step into the gifts. So you can switch that. So maybe you are waiting to launch your business till it's perfect and you go, wait a minute, I'm going to go ahead and launch it anyway, but I'm going to implement the gifts of this, which is the gifts are they excel at organization and high standards, structured execution. So it may not be perfect, but you're going to be organized and you're going to be structured and you're going to have a system in place, most likely with this pattern. They balance adaptability and and are able to build a foundation for sustainable growth. So one of the gifts is because of the organization piece, they're very organized and able to, and this is why attorneys, accountants, bookkeepers, these people are drawn, and I have this gift I use this gift a lot. I work with numbers, and I'm very structured in how I look at things. It's helpful in a business because you're creating those business processes and the structure of the business. So you can move forward using that gift. So if you're having trouble letting go of being perfect, you can be like, let me organize, because that's the gift part. So you can get organized first. So attention to detail, very disciplined in structure. So business processes or business, I like to say, we get to design our business. So in the last episode, I talked about you get to create your business the way you want it. The gift of this pattern is you get to create the business that you want. So you can write your policies, your business policies, the way you want them to be. Having this gift is, I'm going to see clients between this time and this time. I'm only going to see clients on these certain days of the week. Very structured calendar. This is how I track all of the information around my business. This is what my pricing structure is. So being able to do these things and create these systems, create these business policies is a gift part of it. It helps you to feel structured in your business to be able to move forward. Well organized in efficiency and productivity. So this might be you're really good in the back office. You do a really good job with that. And again, this is the gift side of it. You may need help stepping out and doing sales because it's more relationship building and things like that. And that's the merging gifts. So all the patterns have these gifts, and maybe you want to go speak, but you're nervous about it. That's a challenger defender gift. Speaking up, being able to stand in front of crowds of people and be confident and charismatic. That's a gift of the challenger pattern. So applying all these gifts in different facets of your business is going to really be helpful. And all 5 of them working together is beautiful. It's this balanced way of being. Maybe working with clients, you hold space really well. That's the gift of the enduring pattern. If you haven't listened to the other episodes, I highly recommend you go back and listen to them. You listen to them over and over again if you need to, and you'll pick up on the gifts part of all the patterns and how they tie into being an entrepreneur. So you have really good systems, your back office is structured, you have all the things in place to have a good start to your business foundational wise. Now you can step into, now I'm going to take clients, I'm going to take money, and I'm going to track that money flow. And that's going to be a structured system that you have in your business. All of these things I work with my clients on. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, this sounds great, Susie, but how does this all work? That's what I teach. That's what I do with clients. We build your foundation of your business to have all of these systems in place so that you can start taking clients confidently, generating revenue right away in your business. And we work through any of the defensive patterns that are showing up for you that are holding you back from getting started. So if you're stepping into a defensive pattern, we work together on that, figure out what's going on, remove that energy source that's happening, that blocked energy that's keeping you from moving forward. And we step into the gifts of the pattern so that you can have a successful, sustainable business. That is what I coach on. That is what I teach. That is what I help my clients with. If you're curious about working with me, you can click on the link in the show notes and schedule a call with me, and we can talk through some of this. So what are ways that you can balance and think, okay, I want it to be perfect, but it's good enough. What to you is good enough? So we're never going to reach perfect. That is an unattainable thing. But in your mind, if you have a standard that's in your head, that's like, if I can get to this point, that's good enough for me. I have clients who ask me, one thing that people get stuck on, this happens in all business, starting a business. What am I going to name my program? Or what am I going to call my business even? What am I going to name my business? What am I going to name my program or my offer? What am I going to tell my clients that I do? How am I going to describe that? and they get stuck on it has to be the exact right one right now. So I'm not going to start my business till I have a name for it. Well, that's ridiculous. You'll never start your business because you're going to have a bunch of ideas that come up. You'll be like, oh, but I want to call it this, but this sounds better. But then people respond to this better. And then that's better. You need to land on one thing. And I like to call it a working copy. So it's a working name or a working program. It's in the works. So you're using it to just say it and tell people about it, but it can change. So being flexible and adaptable. So for example, I'm going to give you what I did in Business Simplified. When I started my business, I knew I wanted to call it Business Simplified. That was easy. And I stayed with it. I didn't change it. What I didn't know is, what is my logo going to look like? How do I want to brand it? How do I want to show up? Who am I talking to? I didn't know that. I had this massive, huge audience. Like, I'm going to talk to women entrepreneurs. That was my beginning. That's huge. That is a lot of people to be talking to. But I didn't know. Did I stop? No, I started my business anyway. I started it with whatever colors I felt like using. Back at that time, I think it was like a navy blue and yellow, kind of a yellow color. I just threw up a logo, and in my mind, I was like, this is good enough. I need to get my name out there. I need to start talking to people. I need to start telling them what I do and how I help them and what is Business Simplified. And then I started the podcast, and I just stayed with the colors, the logo, the name, what I'm doing, who I'm talking to. I just kept it until I got more clarity. And as I got more clear, I was able to shift it. Now, if you're working in the defense of the rigid pattern, you're not even going to start because it's not exactly how you're envisioning it. You're just going to hold off. But if you can overcome that, let go of that defense and say, it's okay, it's good enough. This is good enough to start. I'm just going to start. And then with that momentum, as you get clear, you're going to know who you're talking to. You're going to know what your program is. You're going to know what colors you want to use and how you want your logo to be. It's all going to start to unfold in front of you. And that's the beauty of working with the universe, working in the universal laws of rhythm, working in that ability to be in flow, not being rigid and saying, no, this isn't going to work. It's going to get better over time. Things are going to expand and grow, and you're going to transmute energy. If you haven't listened to the Universal Law series, I recommend you go back and listen to that. Transmutation of energy is a universal law, and it's where you can shift your energy. So you're no longer rigid and saying this has to be perfect. You're saying, I'm going to go with what's good enough for now and just go with the flow. And that's going to be good enough. So having that be your statement of it's good enough. Another thing is incorporating creativity and intuition. So I talk about taking inspired action. I talk about meditating and sitting and listening to your spirit guides. Listen to what's coming and follow that instead of a rigid pattern. So instead of, I'm going to do it 1, 2, 3, exactly how it's spelled out here, I'm going to go in and I'm going to ask for this inspired action. And I'm going to take that action in trusting that it's going to unfold the way that it should, trusting that it's going to be exactly how it's supposed to be at the right time, and being able to relax. And that's going to be opening up your energy. So when you're in the gifts, your energy is not tight, like how we described in the last episode. When you're in the defensive part of the rigid pattern, your energy is really tight, like a flagpole. When you open up to possibility through taking action, inspired action, without having the constraints of perfection, then you're opening up your energy field and your core becomes open. And then you're flowing and you can feel that energy shift and you can step into it and then know that it's all going to be okay. Everything's going to unfold exactly how it's supposed to, and everything's going to happen exactly how it should. And then you're open to receiving. And this goes into the law of attraction. You then are open, not closed, and people see that and they're drawn to you. So if you go back to the universal law of attraction, all of these things are tied together. When you're open, people are attracted that are looking for that. Open people are attracting open people. When you're closed off and you're shut down and you're rigid, you're not going to attract the open person who's like, hey, I want to work with you. So again, thinking through, how is your energy flow? What is it that's going on with that? So some of the reflection questions that I'm going to ask, take a minute if you want to journal about it. This is a great way to find out where you land in using the gifts of this pattern. So how do my standards benefit my business? We have to have some sort of a standard in our business. And I coach people on this all the time. When you have business policies, it allows you to remove the emotion. So if you say, this is my pricing, and you write it down, do a Google Doc that says, this program costs this much money. Then you are the business owner. You get to change your mind and you get to negotiate. It's up to you to do that, but you have a standard. My program costs XYZ. That's what I sell it for. When you talk to people, then you default to that and you say, the policy for Business Simplified is that this program costs this much. And then it's up to you if you want to shift around that. And if you want to offer a discount, or if you want to give somebody something else, or what, you can shift from that. But you need to establish your business policies. This is the gift of the pattern, the structure of your business. These are the business policies that we follow. And then as the business owner, you get to decide if you want to shift that. And that's the beautiful thing of being an entrepreneur. You get to decide. You get to make changes if you want to. Just remember, you should start with your standard. I only work with clients on these certain days of the week. There's your standard. If you decide to take somebody outside of that time, that's your choice. That is up to you. But you don't have to. And this allows you to remove the emotion around it. And you can tell people, we only see people on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Which time would you like? There's boundaries. And that's part of the merging pattern. The merging defense is no boundaries. I just see everybody all the time. So again, bringing in the gift of the rigid pattern, you can now have boundaries. We only see people on Tuesday and Thursday. So now we have a boundary. And this is part of the gifts of the rigid pattern, is creating those beautiful boundaries, business policies, what you do, when you do it, how you do it. And this falls into like contract development. That's why the gifts of this pattern, you get bookkeeping people, accounting people, attorneys, very structured, and it's for a purpose. It's important that you have business policies, protocols, procedures, contracts. You should be tracking your money, bookkeeping for tax purposes. All of that is part of having a strong foundation in your business. So this pattern in these gifts is incredibly important. And we all have the opportunity to step into it. So another question you can ask is, where can I introduce more flexibility while maintaining quality? So again, not being so rigid that this is the policy and it's never going to change. This is the standard, but how can we be flexible in that and still offering a great quality for clients, great quality for how the business is run? How can I balance structure with creativity in my business? If you're so incredibly structured, then you're not innovating and you're not being creative. So what are some things that you can do to be in balance? Be creative over here, but be structured over here. How is that you can bring those two together? What are some ways that you can do that? So the rigid pattern gifts is precision, discipline, and high ethical standards. These are all powerful and incredibly important tools as a successful business owner. But you want to balance it with adaptability and flexibility and creativity. You don't want to be so rigid that you never work with anybody because it's not perfect and it's not following exactly how you want it to go. Being flexible allows you to let in and out those things that are going to help you grow and expand as a business owner. If you're curious about more of this, Stephen Kessler's book, The 5 Personality Patterns, is where I have gotten a lot of the information that I've shared in this series. I looked at it from an entrepreneur perspective, which he doesn't cover in the book. He covers all of the facets of each pattern and how it shows up in just everyday life. So it's really interesting material. I highly recommend reading it. From an entrepreneur perspective, we use all 5 of the patterns all the time in our life, outside of work, out in personal relationships, all of that, family relationships, even with our pets. How we interact with them is all how we use these patterns. We have access to all of the patterns all of the time. The goal of this series was to make you aware of when you are stepping into a defensive pattern unconsciously. So you notice, oh, I'm avoiding something here. That's the leaving pattern. Oh, I have no boundaries. I'm just telling everybody I'm going to do everything for them. That's the merging pattern. Oh, I'm not speaking up for myself. I'm holding back. That's the enduring pattern. Oh, I'm overpowering people and being controlling. That's the challenger pattern. Or I'm rigid. I'm not flexible. It has to be perfect. Everything has to be done exactly a certain way, and I'm not open to any other idea. That's the rigid pattern. So these are all the defensive parts of the pattern. Now, the beautiful gifts of the patterns. The leaving pattern is incredibly intuitive and creative, thinks outside of the box, loves the flow, is able to adapt, very flexible. The merging pattern, amazing at relationship building, open heart, compassionate, joyful, like is the life of the party. The enduring pattern is steadfast and sturdy and reliable, able to hold space beautifully for people, usually an amazing listener. That's the enduring pattern gift. The challenger defender gift, very leadership qualities, charismatic, able to speak, able to hold attention of a room, being able to direct and be organized in how they're leading people, leading projects, things like that. The rigid pattern, very organized, very efficient, organized, able to hold things together, very structured, follows the rules, makes sure things are done properly, high standards. All of these gifts are amazing, and we can use all of them all the time. And combining all of them in your business, you're going to be an amazing entrepreneur. But it's understanding them and knowing how to step into them. This is what I offer in my coaching. I'm a trauma energetics coach, working with these patterns and working with the energy behind them to release any blocked energy that's causing the defensive pattern to show up unconsciously for you as an entrepreneur, letting that go and stepping into the gifts consciously, taking ownership of the things that you know you have control over and using the gifts in your business in a way that is going to help you sustain and have an amazing business. That is what I do. If you're curious about working with me, I would love to chat with you. You can click on the link in the show notes to schedule a call with me. Would love to have you tell me about your business. Tell me what it is that you're doing. I love all things business, and I love to watch entrepreneurs grow and heal and have sustainable businesses, have this beautiful foundation that they can grow and expand and bring their gifts to the world. That's my mission. That's what I'm called to, is to help people establish their business so that they can go out and help the world. They can help us be better humans. They can help support and encourage other people in whatever it is, the capacity that they're doing that in. So that's my dream and vision and why I do what I do. If you're curious about working with me, I would love to chat with you. And our next series, I'm excited. I'm so excited about the numbers. I love numbers. They do not scare me at all. I used to live in spreadsheets when I worked in the corporate world. I'm bringing that to the starting business owner. I'm bringing that to the entrepreneur from a single entrepreneur perspective, simplifying that down. I used to work with hundreds of millions of dollars in spreadsheets and sales forecasting, budgeting, all the things. I worked really closely with accounting departments. I worked with sales departments. Everything was about numbers. I lived in spreadsheets. I've simplified that down to where now I can explain to people who are starting out, and this is going to be in the coming series of the podcast, what numbers you should be looking at when you're first starting out. Like, what's most important? How do you apply changes into your business that you can see the change in your numbers? So what is it that you need to know to grow your business based on what you're looking at in your numbers? Embracing metrics. using numbers to grow your business. So numbers aren't scary. We're going to change the mindset about numbers. What numbers matter most? Financial empowerment. So understanding your revenue and expenses. We're going to talk about goals, how to measure progress and staying on track. Pricing and profitability, using your numbers to plan for future growth in your business. There's all kinds of fun stuff coming up in this next series. I'm excited to share it with you. So I'm looking forward to going into this new series, teaching you about how not to be afraid of your numbers and how important they are in business. And as always, keep it simple.